Okay, the noise you hear in the background is an electric vacuum pump. I've got it running because I can't be foot pumping and doing all this testing at the same time, and it's an old pump. Anyhow, I got it set at around, I think I got it set at around 10 inches, 12 inches. What I want to show you is how these various bellows are working. I don't know if you can see it in this. Try to get that up there so you can see it. I've added these nipples to each one of these bellows so that I could check the vacuum levels in them as the music roll is tracking. In other words, this is a real-time test. And what I'm going to do now is, right now I've got the roll on, and right now both holes are uncovered. Both of the tracker bar holes are uncovered, and you can see we got about 15 inches on this one and nothing on this one. 15 inches on this one and nothing on this one. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and cover the bar, and you notice immediately how the tracker shifted. Our pressure dropped down to 10, and this one actually, this gauge is a little fluky. Actually, this gauge is reading 0. If I disconnect it, you'll see that there's no vacuum on there. So right now, the hole on the left of the tracker bar is covered. The hole on the right is uncovered. And now I'm going to go ahead and move this over, move the vacuum gauge over to this bellow. I'm going to cap that back off. Cover this, and you can see we've got about 15 inches in this one and 10 inches in that one. Now what I'm going to do, now interestingly enough, nothing has changed as far as the tracker bar is concerned. I've still got the right hole is open and the left hole is closed. But it's not closed 100%, and you'll see that in the pictures that I have above this video. You'll see that the hole on the left is open just a tad. I mean, just a tiny, tiny little bit. That hole on the left is open. In fact, you can see when I put my finger over the left hole, you can see the response of the tracking mechanism. Okay, because it actually shifts. In other words, if I cover the hole completely, cover the left hole completely, the mechanism tries to shift the roll back to the right, and you can see that as the tracking mechanism, as these bellows move, so moves the roll. So if I cover this, you can see it's moving to the right. If I cover the other side, it moves to the left. Okay, but as I showed you before, if the holes are completely uncovered, you notice that it shifts to the left. That's with both holes completely uncovered. Okay? Shifts completely to the left. And yet if I cover it, now the hole on the right is open, about 3/4 of the way, and the hole on the left is open just a tad. And you notice how the vacuum level in this bellow is oscillating. And what's actually happening is that tiny, tiny little bit of movement is causing the valve in this unit over here to actually open and close a tiny, tiny little bit. And you'll see that later. But the point that I want to make is you can see that the bellows themselves are very, very centered, as though the valves on both sides are completely balanced, and yet, as I said, the hole on the right is uncovered about 75%, and although you can't see it, even with the naked, I mean, You almost can't even see it with the naked eye. I mean, if you get real close, and you'll see in the pictures that it is actually open a tiny little bit. Just enough to get one of the valves to actually change state. And actually it's going from an off position because it's an outside valve, and because it's an outside valve, when the hole is open, there's no vacuum applied to the valve, but when it's closed, no vacuum applied to the bellow, but when it's closed, vacuum is applied to the bellow. So it's as though it's closed even though it's open, and yet it's open enough that the bellow on this side, which is a regular valve, this is a regular valve, right up there D is a regular valve, and you can actually see that it's moving, and you can see that it's got vacuum. So the hole is open enough that this valve is triggered, putting vacuum in here. And you'll also notice that because as you move this assembly, in fact, I mean, the assembly is stuck here, okay? I mean, it doesn't want to move at all. But you might remember from previously that I'm going to turn the vacuum off for a second. If you close the bellow, it shifts this bellow to the left. So we've got this bellow that's got vacuum in it, trying to pull the assembly this way. You've got this bellow with vacuum in it, trying to pull it this way. So these two bellows are counter-opposing one another. In other words, you've got an equal amount of vacuum in both of these, and so as a consequence, the mechanism itself is in a balanced state. All right. Go ahead and turn it back on again, and you can see that the bellows are in an equal state. There's an equal amount of vacuum in this bellow and this bellow, and as a consequence of that, the mechanism is centered. Even though the hole on the right is open 75% and the hole on the left is just barely open. Okay? Now we're going to go ahead and let the mechanism roll forward. And what you can see, no notes are playing because I've got the tracker bar covered, but what you can see is that with the slightest bit of change in the position of the music roll, now it's not changing at all, now it's tracking perfectly. I'm going to go ahead and force it a little bit, but even if I try to force it, you can see that it immediately changes back. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is take this, turn it off, like this, connect it to this. Back on. And you can see that there's no vacuum in this bellow at all. So there's no vacuum, as you saw before, there was no vacuum in this bellow, no vacuum in this bellow. Until the hole on the right, okay, until the hole on the right opens up. And then you notice that the vacuum level jumps up to full vacuum. Both of these are jumping up to full vacuum. Okay? As the unit is working to shift the music roll back, to the left. Now I've got the hole on the right covered, so we got full vacuum. on both bellows, both this bellow, pulling it to the left, that makes very little sense, does it? Because if it was pulling to the left, you'd think that this bellow would have the vacuum, and yet this is the bellow that's got vacuum, and it doesn't even feel like it's got vacuum in it. How about that? It doesn't even feel like it's got vacuum in it. So why is it that the vacuum that's in this one, which is the same as the vacuum in this one, although these gauges aren't the same, the vacuum level inside this bellow and the vacuum level inside this bellow are identical, and yet with an equal amount of vacuum in both of these bellows, this one is overpowering this one. And that is what I'm going to explain later. You'll see how that happens. Now it's going to go back to the way it was, as the roll is once again finding the center spot. I'll go ahead and disconnect this, connect it up over here. You can see we're back to the same state we were before. As the roll is tracking in its dead center.